Hi, greetings. It's me, Dr. Paul Gerhardt, and today I want to talk about ethical power and politics. These are things that you must recognize are absolutely important in each of our workplaces. We often tend to blame other people for us not being successful or things not going our way. And sometimes that's the case. But it really is not what happens to us that matters, but how we deal with things that matters. And it's even better when we can preclude things and act in a proactive way so that bad things don't happen to us, or we can navigate around those things quicker. And we do those things by building a network. As a matter of fact, the most successful people in any industry know that the fastest way to grow your career really is to build a powerful network. And that's what you do when you are very familiar with how politics work. In every organization, it takes other people supporting other people in order for people to advance and move their agendas forward or their ideas into fruition, whatever that may be. But it really learning how to build coalitions and networks with other people that can help you grow your career really takes a special skill. We need to be authentic in what we do, and we need to be ethical in what we do. Sometimes people get good results by not being ethical, and they cheat people and they can find success. But we find even more success in our careers in the longer run when we're being as ethical as possible. You know, doing the right thing for the right reason, where the majority of the people involved come out with a win. Harming people really should never be an option, and there should always be ways to find ways to not harm people. You know, harming people is unethical. If you just because you're a leader in an organization and you have power doesn't mean that you can harm people who have a lower position than you. You actually have a responsibility to find ways to protect them, to take care of them, and help them grow as individuals. And in turn, the results are, generally speaking, your people will do the same for you. They'll protect you and help you grow your organization to make it stronger. Organizations need employees to want to be creative, want to be innovative, and want to give their best efforts. And so it's important to understand what the rules of the game are in as it relates to being successful in that. So one thing to consider is you can't be a friend with your employees. You have to be friendly and you have to be positive. But doing the right thing for the right reasons means you have to have clear boundaries with employees too. Being friendly is a good way of being, and being respectful to each and every employee is absolutely important. But when you become friends with your employees, that's when people may see favoritism taking place. And it really does break down the strength and unity of your team. So recognize where the boundaries are. Treat all people with respect, but you can't be friends outside of work, or that could cause challenges. In all cases, you need to never allow anyone to be unethical. You know, try to find ways to support people and have clear written expectations of what being ethical looks like. In the longer run, people who use unethical politics, they're ultimately less productive. So practice being ethical. Look for win-win solutions in every situation. I want to talk to you about how people get things done. And so there are many different ways that we can ask people for support. When you're working with organizational leaders, the best way to get support is to do something that we call rational persuasion. You know, you're using logical arguments with factual evidence to persuade another person into changing a behavior in order to meet an objective. You know, and so rational persuasion, if I wanted to go to my boss and get more resources, I would have to do some research to show that there would be a return on investment, for instance. Inspirational appeal is often done. You know, it's about arousing people's enthusiasm and appealing to a person's values and ideals and aspirations in order for them to have higher levels of self-confidence and in order to want to make some kind of change. And so that's inspirational appeal. Personal appeal is also important. And sometimes if you have strong relationships with other people, you can simply ask people for a favor. And that personal appeal really involves loyalty and friendship. So I couldn't go to my boss and say, hey buddy, pal, can I have this resource? But I could go to a friend or someone, a colleague that was at the same level as me in order to ask a favor, because that would be appropriate. And sometimes we use this fourth technique that's called Ingratiation Tactic. And in that way is first we have to assess the mood of people. If they're in a good mood, they're probably going to make a better decision. And then start out giving a compliment, but you got to be genuine because we all have BS meters inside of us. And then you got to determine if it's a good time to ask for a favor. But Ingratiation Tactic, you're simply offering people a compliment before asking what you're looking for. Ethics are not always so cut and dry. I can remember growing up and my own mom would say things like, well, I've got a friend who's a police officer and he said that you can go up to 8 miles over the speed limit and not get a ticket. And that may be true or that may not be true. But just because you heard it from one source, in my case my mom, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's actually a fact. The word speed limit implies that that is the fastest that you legally can go. And those, like for instance, laws related to speed are put in place because they're based on criteria generally related to safety. If there's high population traffic in that area, it's probably, and lots of families, probably the slower speed limits are there to protect people from hurting each other in car accidents. And so being ethical means really doing the right thing for the right people in the right situation. That really entails understanding the right situation. Speaking of that speed limit, I can remember going golfing with a colleague of mine who was much older than I. He was right ready to retire, and we were driving down a country road going towards the golf place, and I noticed that my friend was going exactly 35 miles an hour. I looked at his speed limit, I saw the sign on the side of the road, I'm like, what is wrong with this old fogey? He's just going 35 miles an hour. There's no cars here, he could be going faster. I just want to go golfing. And right when I finished that thought, right from the side of my eye, I saw something come from the side of the road and go towards our car, and I said, stop! And he quickly put the brakes on immediately when I said stop. And right when I said that, there was a small boy that had chased his ball out to the middle of the road. And I swear, if we had been going just a little bit faster than that 35 miles an hour, someone wouldn't have a young son in their life. And so, to me, that really helped highlight the fact that we got to pull our egos out of situations and realize that generally speaking, laws are in place to protect people. We talk about the rational person when we talk about laws, and most of those are in place to create win-win situations. Some things are seemingly, we could talk about some of the hot topics like political things or religion, and I don't want to go into those conversations. Some things aren't so, cut and dry. But generally speaking, in organizations, you can't please all people. But you do want to do the right thing in the teams that you're working on. One person can ruin the reputation of an organization, and that's hard to regain. So we really each need to consider the fact that we don't always know what we know, but if we are being unethical, people are going to get hurt, and that's never a positive thing because it could ruin our own reputations too. If you want to grow your career, it's a good idea to recognize that there really are 7 different bases of power. One base is legitimate. You never want to make your boss look bad, but you do need to recognize that it's your boss's job to tell you what to do and how to do it. And so it's his or her right to do so, and that's called legitimate power. There's referent power, where you develop relationships with, and they do things for you out of respect. And so we all can have referent power, but respect is something that's earned. Information power is another good one too. When you have information that flows through you, that's another way for you to gain more power. And very similarly to that is expert power. More training and education that we get, the more that we know, the more that we become experts in things, and then we have just a little more power with that. And then there's connection power. This is our networks, our contacts. It's not necessarily what you know, but who you know that really helps you grow your career and get what you need. And finally, reward power. We all have the power to praise other people, no matter what our title is. As supervisors, we need to be giving genuine praise for good work in order to get more good work. And sometimes we have to use the final type of power, and that's coercive power. And it is often the least effective type of power, do this or else. But it also has its appropriate place in the workplace, because in order to get people to stop doing something and change action, sometimes you need to create an ultimatum. So ultimately, you want to really create a situation where people feel like they're being set up for success. There's enough success for everyone in an organization, so you can't hoard it, but recognizing where the different bases of power are will help you be able to accomplish your own personal goals and the goals of your organization. You also need to recognize that there's certain etiquette standards that are expected. I have a tendency to call people by last name, Mr. and Ms. or Doctor, and just out of respect for other people. This is a way that we can help build and maintain relationships, because relationships are. I want to leave you with a final thought. Your boss is your boss, and your boss has the ability to control your upward movement in your organization, and also give you a recommendation if you choose to leave your organization. So your boss wants loyalty from you. Be loyal to him or her. Never go over your boss's head. It makes you look bad, and ultimately you might be able to win a small battle by going over your boss's head, but there'll be other situations where you may need support from your boss that you won't get it. Your boss wants cooperation. You got to be a good team member. Where every team is only as good as its weakest link, and if you're not cooperating, you may be that weak link. Take initiative. Do the right thing. If you know what's expected of you, you've got to make sure you get those things done as a priority. Your boss doesn't always know what they don't know, so make sure you keep your boss in the loop with what's going on. This will help him or her make the right decisions and know what's going on. And if you make mistakes, don't hide your mistakes. Similarly, if you make a mistake, don't become defensive if your boss gives you criticism. Be open to criticism. Allow him or her to help you become even better, and do your best in a respectful way to help your boss understand you and why you've done what you've done, and let them know that you're willing to do the right thing. Don't break trust with your boss. If there is a low level of trust there, make sure that you apologize and admit your shortcomings. Be authentic. Be a person of integrity, and help your boss know that you've got a plan in place to improve. And then be a person of your word. So I've given you a lot of information about ethical power and politics. There's always going to be politics in the workplace, but really learning how to create relationships with other people in a way where they can genuinely build coalitions to get things done, have more resources available to you. It will also benefit you in helping you grow your career, because we like to rely on the word of other people when promotion time is around or when resources are there, and you're only as good as your reputation, and you are your own personal brand manager. So create a reputation of excellence. Don't ever waver from being ethical and creating win-win situations in what you do. Anyway, I know I've given you a lot in the last 15 minutes. Thank you so much for your time. I hope you've enjoyed the video. Have a great day, because only you get to choose how you feel about it. I'm Dr. Paul Gerhardt.